Let's talk about teens and anxiety. If you have a teenager right now, they are probably suffering from some level of anxiety. And I have a lot of teenage clients in my practice that I absolutely love working with. And after teaching them and being a parent coach for 17 years, working with families and teens, there are just some really, really simple tricks that can help you help them. First of all, just let me say that hypnosis is fantastic for anxiety because it alone, just the process, is super relaxing. I've had a number of teens that, reluctantly came to hypnotherapy because they were intrigued by it, but curious, say at the end of that session that they don't remember the last time they ever felt that relaxed. So one of the reasons it works so well is because they're just getting into a relaxation state that they haven't felt probably for a long time. But even more than that, they get a chance to talk about everything that's bugging them, and also to learn tools to quiet the voice in their mind. We talk about those tools, that they have power over their consciousness more than anyone has ever taught them. They start to get excited about that, because these are the kinds of things they wish they were learning in high school, frankly. They really do. They want to know how to use their body, their mind, their own inner tools to make their life work for them. So it's a natural it's a natural tool that works really well for teenagers. Plus, a lot of them are nervous to do just traditional cognitive behavioral therapy because they feel like they're on the spot and they feel self-conscious. So what's great about hypnosis for this is, although we do talk in order to do a great job for them, but then the hypnosis part, they're intrigued, they're curious, like, can you actually make my life better by getting into my subconscious? And then when they notice a difference, when they have that really good practice in their sport, or they do better on that test than they expected they were going to, I mean, it just proves it to them that they have that power inside of them. And teens are looking to find what power they have because they don't feel very powerful in their lives. If you think about it, most of their lives are controlled. They have to go to those classes. They only get to pick one or two of them, maybe, and those electives might not even be available. So they don't get very much choice in what they get to study, when they get to study, how they get to do the work. Then they often have to have a job and make money. And there's just so much that's not in their control right at the age where they're wanting more sovereignty and self-reliance. So it works really well because they start to learn that they have power within them to shape and steer their own lives themselves. So now I want to really give parents some simple, really effective tools that help reduce their anxiety at home. And the first one is that to acknowledge your own anxiety about your teen. I'm sure you have some, because as parents, our kids are getting to the age where we see what adulthood's supposed to look like and where they are in relationship to that. And we see the gap. We're like, how are they ever going to get there if this is where they are now? That makes us anxious. And it also taps our own buttons of like, well, what did I do, or not do to have them be prepared in time? But our anxiety, they can feel. And if we are carrying it, they're feeling it from us, undeniably. And then you add that to the pressure that they already feel because they're going to have to make a decision about their future when high school ends, because they're having to learn how to drive safely and not put their lives and other people's lives in danger, because they want to have friends and try to fit in socially, but that feels like a full-time job. Not to mention they're supposed to get good grades when they're carrying all this, plus a crush on someone that may or may not like them. They're carrying so much pressure. And then if they feel from us that we're anxious about their future, it's really too much. So the first tip for parents is your job is to meet them where they are. If they're way below where you think they should be, meet them there. Because if they're really immature in some way and they are not remembering to do the cat litter, they're not remembering their forms that they're supposed to bring for school, they're calling you to bring them their laptop to school. If that's really where they are, And you are seeing them needing to be up here, and now we're yelling at them. And so because of the anxiousness and the frustration, now we're angry, and we're coming across with the message that you're supposed to be here and you're down here. That's just going to topple the dominoes. They can't handle it. They literally cannot handle it. If they're not able to get their form turned in or their laptop every day, they cannot handle you thinking they are inadequate. So, parents, we have to let go where we hope they were and admit they're not there. We just have to. And so, and now if they're not able to do those organizational things, we can meet them there and go, all right, we have an organizational issue. That's a fact. We have an organizational issue. We don't necessarily have a completely inadequate 16-year-old. We just have an organizational issue, and we definitely have to address it. But when you just leave it as what it is, and then you meet them as a young adult to solve it with them, when you give them the credit to learn to solve that as a functioning adult, they will appreciate that respect because they're so desperate for it. Like, you're valuing me enough to actually hear my side, automatically they will much more readily solve that problem with you. But if you're coming in with the feeling that they are inadequate, they're going to shut down because they cannot handle it. So let's take that issue and say, oh, sweetheart, I want to make sure that we have a conversation tonight. It's going to take about 20 minutes. So let me know when that would be a good time. Now, treating them like that is respectful of the young, growing adult inside of them. And automatically, because you're giving them a choice, you're having them pick out what time is good for them, they feel heard, seen, respected, which is what they're longing for, because that makes them feel like they're growing into an adult. So then they say, well, all right, probably after my practice, after dinner, I'll have 20 minutes. Great. All right. Then when you sit down, it needs to come from an absolute problem-solving place about this organizational issue and a loving place, meeting them exactly where they are. And you could say, I've just noticed there seems to be a lot of organizational issues coming up for you, and I'm afraid this is going to hurt you if we don't get a handle on it together. Notice together. I'm side by side with that person. I want to join you and help solve this. So if we don't solve this together, I'm afraid it's going to end up hurting you, because I don't want you to, not have your laptop, and I don't want you to, keep forgetting important papers and stuff. So what seems to get in your way? That open-ended question. This is now tip number 2. So the first one was meet them where they are and reduce your own anxiety. Deal with that separately so you can meet them where they are. The second tip is, if that teenager is 14 or up, you should lead with questions. You're almost completely done with lectures at this point. So ask them questions that are not threatening in any way. So what seems to be getting in your way is assuming nothing's wrong with them, but something is a challenge for them here. So we want to find out, what is the challenge, what gets in your way, and how do we get it out of your way? It's completely neutral. That's so much better than you forgot your laptop 3 times and you're 16. Totally different. There seems to be an organizational issue going on. I'm afraid it's going to hurt you. So I want to talk about what's getting in your way so I can help solve it with you. Totally different question. They're now able to handle it. So when you ask that question, the reason why questions are so important is because teens are at the age where they need to start thinking for themselves about themselves internally. So your questions need to be non-threatening and give them a chance to do the thinking that's going to help them grow into their adult selves. Now, a lot of times you get that blank shutdown answer. I don't know. No problem. Don't get frustrated by that. They're going to do it. They don't know. Why? Because they need to be asked questions more often. If this is resonating, like, subscribe, and leave me a comment or question. I'd love to tailor my episodes to your specific interests. Thanks. Okay, so if your teenager gives you that, I don't know, that is no problem. The tip for this is immediately make the question a multiple choice question. I'm wondering how we can solve this organizational issue. What seems to get in your way? I don't know. Okay, Well, is it that you're just really sleepy in the morning and so you're not functioning? Or is it more that you're having trouble keeping track of where your things are? I just made it multiple choice. A or B. Like any teenager can answer A or B. Or you could even say A, B, or C, none of the above. Now they're getting somewhere. So then they say, well, I think it is. I'm really, really tired in the morning. Okay, so you're not really functioning in the morning. So is that when you've been trying to gather all your stuff? Well, yeah. Okay, so since you don't function all that well in the morning, do you think it would work if you got that all in your backpack like the night before? Actually, yeah, that might work. Now they're thinking about, will that work for them? Because I have no agenda. I'm not upset or mad. I'm just totally meeting them on what will work for them. Okay. So the second tip to reiterate is we want to be asking our teens questions so that they're doing the thinking that is helping them answer the questions, is turning them into adults. It's the internal ability to process their own needs, desires, and challenges that helps them grow into adulthood. So by you're asking them that is helping them grow into that. Then if they cannot answer it well, no problem, give them a multiple choice question, because that's building their confidence. Oh, I can tune into myself and find the answers inside here. That's what adults do. That's what we want them getting better at doing. So if you immediately turn it into a multiple choice question, they can then do that very important processing. Okay, the third and final tip for today, and I'll be talking about this topic in other videos, but the third topic for today is not to overestimate them or underestimate them. And it's really easy to do both of those. So I'll talk about both of those. So we overestimate our teens when we think because they're this age, they should do that. But then they don't do that. So we're overestimating them. So we're assuming they can handle something they actually can't handle. And when they don't have guidance and support in areas that they can't handle yet, then they really flounder and they feel super anxious because they feel like, I guess I'm supposed to be able to do that, but I can't. And I don't have any guidance because my parents just leaving it to me. So if you sense that that's happening and your kid is repeatedly struggling with something, then it's back to meet them where they are. If you think, well, that's an 11-year-old behavior, not a 16-year-old behavior, meet them at 11. They probably have some ways where they're super immature and some ways where they're exceptionally mature. But if we don't meet them at the ways that they're immature and scaffold them up to being able to handle it, they'll never get there and they'll constantly get the message, I'm inadequate. Nobody helps me with this. And they only tell me that I should be good at it, but I'm not. So that freaks me out. And now I'm totally anxious. So if they are struggling with something and it's an 11-year-old issue, meet them right down at 11 and go, all right, no problem. Now, I learned this through years and years and years of teaching because I found that if I had a kid who was behind everybody and I just acted like they should be there, they just shut down, and go deeper and deeper and deeper into the hole. If I admit to myself that they do not know something that even though I taught it to them, they didn't get, I have to help them relearn that or they're not going to ever get anywhere. So then there's the problem of underestimating our teens, okay? This is when we tend to lecture. Lecturing's over when they hit 14. Lecturing is over. It is now time for questions to get them to think about themselves, and then putting our own concerns on the table next to theirs. They're old enough for us to hear what they need, what they are wanting, what they're seeking, and for us to meet them there and say, well, I want that for you, except because of this concern, I'm not comfortable with it. Now we're treating them like young adults who can have a conversation. Now, let's say that you're trying to not underestimate them and have an adult conversation, and then they flip out and freak out. That happens. So let's say I'd like to sit down and talk with you about, what's going to happen this weekend. And I know you're thinking about going out with your friends. I just want to, make sure that it's safe and all those kinds of things. No, why do you always bug me? Okay, hold up. I was treating them like a young, mature, budding adult, and they couldn't handle it. They're not mature enough yet to do that. Okay, so now I have to meet them where they are and know, okay, they can't have a mature adult conversation. If someone can't talk about safety and meet me halfway to make sure that what they're getting includes safety and protection, then they might not be mature enough to go on that weekend, whatever the plans are. And we cannot lie to ourselves and just give them everything they want when they don't have the maturity to handle it. That's our job as parents. So we have to keep them safe. And if their maturity level is, they're going to fly off the handle if I even ask a question about keeping them safe, they're probably not going to be ready to handle that. So leveling with them, it would be a good time to say, sweetheart, I just wanted to make sure that things were in place to keep you safe. If we can't have that conversation together, I'm just not going to feel comfortable with you going. So we don't have to do it right now. Clearly you got upset. Take some time and let me know when you're ready to have that conversation. Now, notice that I did not force the conversation on them right now. Do you want to have a conversation forced on you when you are in a mood? Nobody does. And they get that grace just like you, because we want to begin to treat them like an adult so they can start to handle it. So give them space, give them time, but also know your non-negotiables. Safety is not going out of the equation. So if you can't handle that conversation, then the event goes out of the equation. Not because of anger or reaction or reactivity, but because I have to assess your maturity level and keep you safe. Now, and I'm just straightforward about that. And that's the way it is. That, okay, well, I can tell you're not ready for that conversation, but if we can't have that conversation, then I have some real concerns about that event happening. Now's not the time. Calm down. Take your time. We don't have to have this conversation tonight. Nothing's going to happen until Friday anyway. But just so you know, before Friday, that conversation has to happen in order for you to be able to go, because it's my job to keep you safe. Okay, no problem. That's logical. I haven't said, sit down, young man, we're having this conversation now or you're not going. That's not helpful. They don't want to feel controlled. And it's time for them not to feel controlled. It's time for them to learn how to negotiate honestly and openly, and they want to. And when we respect them, they feel that they're getting that really super strong human need that they're having in their bodies right now to grow into adulthood. We're helping them do that when we do that. To reiterate, first tip was meeting them where they're at. Second tip was to ask questions. And if they can't handle a question, turn it into a multiple choice question. And that doesn't mean that you don't get to put your own thoughts and opinions on the table, but you're having an equal, open conversation about if what they've said strikes concerns. Now you're going to tell them, well, okay, I hear that and I want that for you. And here are the concerns that I have, so that there's a chance to negotiate as adults. And then the third one is not to underestimate them or overestimate them. If they're showing true immaturity, don't treat them like they're 17. If in that way they're 13, meet them down at the level where they need support and help, and scaffold, help them have the supports in place to grow stronger in that area. Okay. But also know that they are, when they say, I don't know, assume that they can answer those questions inside of themselves. They're growing into someone who can do that. Don't just leave it at that. They are a person who is budding with their own desire to have their own opinions and to do that their own thinking, and you want to support them to do that. All right. These 3 tips will really help reduce anxiety, because teens will be seen, not controlled. You don't have any need to control them, because if you always get to negotiate, hear from them and share your concerns and know how to manage the level of safety that matches their maturity, and then talk about that openly, they feel respected, seen, and valued as a growing adult, which is what they need. When they start to feel like they're growing into an adult, that reduces their anxiety. That's what they want to know about themselves. Even more importantly, when you don't come to them anxious, they get the message that, oh, you just meet me where I am, wherever I am, and are a constant support, which makes them come to you when they need support. Now, that's worth gold, because they need your parental guidance. You don't want them to reject you and go to their friends for all their guidance. They're going to get some guidance from their friends. They need your guidance. So if they get from you that you'll always meet them where they are, then they'll do that. They will come to you. They will know that you'll be straight with them, that you will engage in a open-hearted conversation, an honest conversation. You will share your concerns and you will ask genuinely for what they want and need. They will keep coming to you. And that is what you want. Our teens that come to us and we're not afraid to talk about anything, they'll keep coming. If you have a teenager that you're concerned about in any way, like, subscribe, and comment on this channel, because I have many more topics to talk about in this very realm. There's so much that we can do at home that quickly and easily make a big difference for our teens. They're living in a time with a lot of challenge. They're living in a world that's different than the one we grew up in. But like and subscribe and comment on my channel, and I will help you every step of the way through it. I'm Sheila Winger. This is Shift is Happening.